Well, the 23 Russian diplomats actually arrived in minibuses at the Russian embassy in central London. They then came out with their families and were waved off with some Russian embassy tearful staff waving them off. We understand they've gone to an airport outside London aboard those diplomatic minibuses. Of course, they were given 1 week to leave by the Prime Minister, Theresa May, last Wednesday, and they would, she called them, undeclared intelligence officers, which is hotly denied by Russia. We understand they've gone to the airport of Northolt, so they will be leaving as they were told to do, having been declared basically persona non grata here. Now, 23 diplomats from the Russian embassy, that represents roughly 40% of the current accredited staff to what we call here the Court of St. James. That is the biggest single expulsion in the last 30 years of Russian diplomats. Of course, we saw a tit-for-tat happen on Saturday morning where Sergei Lavrov summoned the British ambassador to Moscow and told him that 23 British diplomats had 1 week to leave.
And Benedict, these diplomats leaving the embassy just as the UK government is due to decide whether to impose further sanctions on Russia.
Yes, precisely. Since the beginning of this crisis, we've had these National Security Council meetings, chaired mostly by the Prime Minister herself, showing the gravity, really, of the crisis of the relations between the United Kingdom and Russia. At the best of times, not terribly good, but now absolutely the deep freeze. Now, interestingly, we've also had a tweet this morning from the Foreign Office. So as we await to see what the Prime Minister, when she chairs that meeting, what sanctions, if indeed she will take more sanctions, which would then escalate possibly another reaction from Moscow, the Foreign Office has tweeted this: "The nerve agent came from Sweden. Ukraine did it to frame Russia. It was contamination from the UK's own research facility. Instead of providing an explanation for the Salisbury incident, Russia has launched a campaign of disinformation." All this as the chemical weapons expert, as we know from the OPCW, have arrived in Salisbury yesterday and are beginning their work at Porton Down, the military laboratory, and then on the ground in Salisbury, where Sergei Skripal and his daughter, Yulia, were both poisoned with this nerve agent Novichok on the 4th of March.